This old train retired in 2016, yet here I am riding it in 2025. Am I in a museum? No, I'm on a regular train service using just a regular train ticket. So why are these antiques back after almost a decade of retirement? Let's find out. Goedemorgen, or should I say good morning, and welcome to a brand new Trains Are Awesome video. I'm Tom. I'm in the Netherlands, in Rotterdam, at Rotterdam Alexander Station. It's a train station and a metro station. It's a place with a lot of history for me. I used to be here every day because my school was down the road. It's looking a lot nicer than it did back then. But we're not here to reminisce about my high school days. We're here to talk about something else from the past. But we've got to get to Amersfoort, so let's go do that first. So here's what we're doing today. We just got on the first train out of Rotterdam, and we're going to take it just a few stops to Gouda, where we will transfer to a train that will bring us to Amersfoort. And at Amersfoort, that's where we're transferring to a third train, and that train is the train that I want to showcase in today's video. Because while it might just be a short ride on a regional train, that short ride is going to be aboard one of the most iconic trains from Dutch railway history. The train we're on right now is also pretty iconic. It's an ICM intercity train, also known as a koploper. Now, this train is slated to be retired in the next few years, which is sad because they're some of my favorites, but the train that we're about to ride has already been retired. It's just been brought back out of retirement. But I'll tell you more when we arrive in Amersfoort, which is now. As you pull into Amersfoort station, take a look out the left side of the train and you'll see a yard full of old Dutch trains. Like these two 1200 series locomotives, for example, which were built according to an American design and are coincidentally one of the only trains that I've ever been in the driver's cab of. So I have made it to Amersfoort Centraal. Last time I was here it was just called Amersfoort, but this is where we're going to transfer to the trains of a different company, namely Keolis. I see one standing right there, but that's not the train we're taking. There has been a train station here in Amersfoort since 1863, but in the 19th century, as different railway lines were being built, they all had different Amersfoort stations. And to solve this, in 1901, a Union Station, if you will, was built in Amersfoort, at the location we are right now. Now, in 1962, Amersfoort Station became the first station in the Netherlands to feature escalators, and the building you see today was built in 1997. In 2019, the station was renamed from Amersfoort to Amersfoort Centraal. Now, Amersfoort is a very important station because of its central location in the Netherlands. It acts as a gateway between the west and the northeast. It's even an international station because you can catch trains to Berlin from here. Now, the vast majority of trains leaving Amersfoort are operated by NS, the Dutch railways, except for one line. That's the line we're taking today, so we have to make sure that we grab our fare card and transfer to Keolis. So here at Amersfoort Centraal, we are getting on the RS34 towards Barneveld Zuid. Now, for many years, this was a line known as the Valleilijn or Valley Line, although its unofficial nickname has always been the Kippenlijn or the Chicken Line, which I think is a name I prefer much more. The Chicken Line got its name because it passes through Barneveld, where we're going. Keolis operates a short 33-kilometer long service between Amersfoort and Ede-Wageningen, with some rush hour trains only going as far as Barneveld. This service uses some very interesting rolling stock. Well, first you have the Stadler Flirts, which I don't think are that interesting. These are like the most common trains in Europe at this point. But the other trains on this line, those are worth talking about. On the one hand, you have the Protos. And if you've never seen or heard of these trains before, well, that's kind of a touchy subject. And yet somehow, despite all of this, the train we're riding right now is even more special than that. On the subject of animals, today we're going to ride the chicken line, but the train we're going to ride is named after monkeys. This is so cool. This is the newest train in the Netherlands right here. And in just a few minutes on the opposite track, we're gonna get on one of the oldest. Let's quickly grab some breakfast from the kiosk, because on track 2, we see the unmistakable silhouette appear of a train that was withdrawn back in 2016. This is the Mat'64, also known as the Plan V, also known as the Appelkop, or monkey head. It's just a few minutes before departure, and the 6:55 train to Barneveld Zuid has pulled into the station, operated by a very old train. It's train number 904, a 2-car electric multiple unit built in 1972, and we're going to ride it all the way to the final destination of Barneveld Zuid. Along the way, I'll talk about the history of this train, I'll talk about the history of the chicken line, and then I'll explain why these old trains are now back in service after almost a decade, and why on this specific line. This is what the seating area looks like in second class, and instead of having seats, it kind of has benches that face each other. Each seating area has a small table with a trash can underneath, which is customary for Dutch trains. Something that used to be a standard feature on Dutch trains but is now a thing of the past are windows that can open. Wow, this is pure nostalgia. At the very front of the train, you will find the first class cabin, and I say cabin because the passenger areas are separated from the vestibules by a wall. Inside the vestibule, which is the area by the doors, you will find a few folding seats, although these are quite hard. But here's the most interesting part. If you walk to the very back of the train, past the vestibule, in the section that would have been the first class section in the other car, you will find another empty vestibule with a pair of doors. This was the mail room, because passenger trains in the Netherlands did carry mail until 1979. And those doors, they weren't meant for passengers, they were meant for mail. Anyway, let's talk about these trains. This is a Mat'64, an electric multiple unit developed in the late 1950s, early 60s. The series can be divided into 2 train types, Plan T and Plan V. Interestingly, Plan U was a diesel train, but with a similar shape. Plan T were 4-car sets, and 31 were built between 1961 and 1965. These even had a restaurant car on board. Then came Plan V, 2-car sets like the one we're on now. Built between 1966 and 1976, 246 sets were built, making it the largest fleet of trains in the Netherlands until the VIRM double-deckers came along in the 1990s. The shape of the Mat'64 was based loosely on the Mat'54, also known as the Hondenkop, or dog head, a nickname that was based off of their long, round snout. Can you kind of see it? The Mat'64 officially has the nickname Appelkop, or monkey head, once again for the shape of the front, though I have to say I never heard that nickname used much, if at all. Nicknames like Hondenkop or Koploper were so popular that even the general public used them, but Appelkop never really caught on. The biggest difference compared to past trains, these trains had to be much lighter so that they could accelerate faster. So while they were used on some fast services, they were especially useful on local services. Something else that made them special? These were the last trains to be built in the Netherlands. All of the 4-car sets and a certain number of 2-car sets were built at Werkspoor in Utrecht. But after delivering train number 840 in 1972, Werkspoor stopped manufacturing trains altogether. So the rest of the trains were built by Talbot in Germany, including number 904, the train we are on, which was built in the 70s. After 50 years of service, the last Mat'64 train was retired in April of 2016. Most sets were scrapped, but some were preserved as museum pieces. I cannot believe that after a decade, I am riding the Appelkop again. The seats are stiff but very padded. Yeah, a Dutch-built train. Last time I rode these was, I think, 2015. It was way in the south in Maastricht. My grandpa, my brother, and I were traveling, and there was some sort of issue that meant that the trains had to run really slowly, so they put one of these in, and it was so crowded and so hot. It was quite the experience. This is a lot smoother. I bought breakfast at Amersfoort Centraal, Fristi, which is like a fruit-flavored dairy drink, not for my lactose intolerant besties, and then a gevulde koek, which is just a cookie with almond paste inside. Admittedly, not really a breakfast food, but I was craving it. These trains were certainly no strangers to this line. We've just stopped at Hoevelaken station, and in a few minutes we will turn south, branching off the main line and onto the Chicken Line, stopping at 3 stations in Barneveld. This regional line opened in 1902, although the connection to Amersfoort didn't open until 1937. In 1951, the line was electrified, and from that point on, NS, the Dutch railways, ran electric trains on the line, including the Mat'64, until 2006. That year, a different company, known as Connection, took over the service between Amersfoort and Ede-Wageningen. They called their service the Vallei Line, or Valley Line. Initially, Connection actually leased some of these trains from NS. But then the Protos was delivered. The Protos, built by German factory FTD, was supposed to be what the Stadler Flirt became, an off-the-shelf train, easily modifiable, that any company could easily buy. It was supposed to be a train that you would see anywhere in Europe, but that never happened. FTD only delivered 5 trains before going bankrupt, making Connection the only company that ever bought these, so they're quite unique. Connection later had to buy 2 Stadler Flirts just to have enough trains in their fleet for regular operations. Then, in 2023, the operations of the line transferred from Connection to Keolis, and the provincial government required Keolis to make some changes to their trains. For one, a new exterior livery, white with purple, green, and blue, the Reis branding that a few Dutch provinces are beginning to slap onto public transport in their jurisdictions. The side of the train says it, the Vallei Line is becoming Reis. On the interior side of things, the Protoses are getting toilets, and all trains are due for new seats. So over the course of 2 years, Keolis will be taking 1 train at a time out of service to make these modifications. The problem is that the fleet is so small that even having 1 train out of service already means that they can't operate normally. So they approached 2454 Crew, a non-profit that owns and maintains a large fleet of historic Dutch trains. They struck a deal to lease train number 904 for 2 years, starting in May 2025, which is how, after 9 years, the Mat'64 is once again back in passenger service. And I could not be more thrilled.
Station Barneveld Zuid, eindpunt van deze lijn. Barneveld Zuid, eindpunt.
We've made it to Barneveld Zuid, or Barneveld South Station. And while the line does continue south towards Ede-Wageningen, and that's where we'll be going after this specific train is just operating as a rush hour shuttle between Amersfoort and Barneveld. So it's going to return to Amersfoort in a few minutes, and then at 7:55 do 1 more round trip to Barneveld Zuid and back. But while it's here at the platform, it gives us a few minutes to admire the beauty of this old train. As you can see, the train does not use LED destination signs, but the old-fashioned scrolling ones. I think it might be the only train in the Netherlands to use those. But you can tell that the signs were specially made for this reintroduction into service because it says Amersfoort Centraal, the name that the station didn't get until 2019, after these trains were retired. And of course, those blue doors on the left are the doors to the former mail compartment. The doors meant for passengers are all colored gray. an absolute icon. Gorgeous train, such a blast from the past. I rode the new Acela last week, and honestly, I think I might have been more excited for that. I talked to the engineer and I said, hey, that's a nice train. I bet you really enjoy this part of the job. And he's like, well, to be honest, I really do. I can imagine. If you could smell this video, you would understand why they call this the chicken line. Anyway, gotta wait about 5 minutes and then take the next train towards Ede-Wageningen. We will continue our journey farther south to Ede-Wageningen, aboard this Stadlerflirt. Yeah, it's one of the most common trains in the world, but there are only 2 in the world with this livery. So really, if you want to ride a unique train, you can't go wrong on the chicken line. Speaking of which, if you want to ride the Mat'64, I recommend you do so before spring 2027, because that's when the renovations of the other trains should be complete, and likely the 904 will be pulled back out of service. Will this be its official retirement? Who knows? Here at Ede-Wageningen, I'm going to end the video, about to get on this next train, but that was so much fun, really reliving some childhood memories. And it's going to be there for another like year and a half, so if you're in the Netherlands, definitely check it out. Thanks so much for watching today. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.